own tradition,
Recording in progress.
I will now bow to my right and bow to my left. Having done so, I take this opportunity to request delegates to observe a moment of silence for prayer or meditation. Thank you very much. Let me now remind delegates that the rules and processes do apply to this virtual setting. But before I proceed, honorable delegates, I would like to remind you of the following or make the following announcements. That the virtual sitting constitutes a sitting of the National Council of Provinces, that the delegates in the virtual sitting enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Council of Provinces, that for the purposes of the quorum, all delegates who are logged on to the virtual platform shall be considered present. That delegates must switch on their videos if they want to speak. That delegates should ensure that the microphones on their gadgets are muted and must always remain muted. That all delegates may participate in the discussion through the chat room. That the interpretation facility is active. That all delegates are requested to ensure that the interpretation facility on their gadgets are properly activated to facilitate access to the interpretation services. Honorable delegates, I've been informed and notified that there will be no notices of motions of not notice except the motion on the order paper. So I've been informed that there will be no notices of motions or motions without notice, except as I've already indicated on the order paper in the name of the chief whip. I've also been informed that Honorable Nkosi will move the motion on behalf of Chief Whip of the Chief Whip. So, Honorable Nkosi, I call on you to read and table the motion.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings to your good self and all members present in the meeting. Honorable Chair, I rise on behalf of the Chief Whip of the Council to move that the Council resolves that Rule 218 provides inter alia that the consideration of a bill may not commence before at least 3 working days have collapsed since the committee's report was tabled, be suspended for the purposes of consideration of second adjustment appropriation 2022/2023 financial year bill. B4/2023 National Assembly Section 77. I so move, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Having had the motions being tabled, we will now proceed to voting on the motion. I shall put the question, and the question is that the motion be agreed to. But before we proceed to voting, honorable members, I shall allow provinces an opportunity to make their declarations of vote in terms of Rule 86, if they so wish. And if I may remind honorable members, the maximum time allowed for tabling of the declaration is 3 minutes. So 3 minutes per province. Honorable members, any indication? I take it therefore that there's no province wishing to make a declaration. I now call upon the province to cast their votes. When called upon to do so, heads of delegations must indicate whether they vote in favor, against, or abstain. We'll do so in alphabetical order. We'll start with the Eastern Cape. Eastern Cape?
Eastern Cape, good afternoon, Chair. Eastern Cape, iyavuma.
Eastern Cape, Yavuma. Vote in favor, thank you very much. Free State?
Free State votes in favor, Chairperson of the Council.
Thank you very much. Free State votes in favor. Gauteng?
Gauteng in favor, Chairperson.
Gauteng is voting in favor. Thank you very much. Honorable KwaZulu-Natal?
iKwaZulu-Natal iyaseka sihlalo.
KwaZulu-Natal supports, Chair.
Limpopo?
Limpopo support the motion, Honorable Chairperson.
Limpopo support the motion. Mpumalanga?
Mpumalanga support the motion, Chairperson.
Mpumalanga support the motion. Northern Cape?
Northern Cape support, Honorable Chairperson.
Northern Cape support the motion. Northwest?
Northwest support, Honorable Chair.
Northwest support, thank you very much. Western Cape? Western Cape? Honorable Labuskakne? I see Honorable Labuskakne on the screen.
Supports the motion.
Just repeat that, Honorable Labuskakne.
Western Cape supports the motion.
Western Cape supports the motion. Thank you very much. Voting is now closed. And 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the motion agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. We will now proceed to the schedules, honorable members. Before I proceed to voting on the votes and schedule to the second adjustment appropriation bill, I wish to remind you of the following. Each delegate, including special delegates, shall have 1 vote. Each delegate, including special delegates, shall have 1 vote. Where there is no call for a division, a vote shall be carried, and we shall proceed to the next vote. Where a party wishes to object to a vote, that objection shall be noted, and there'll be no need for a division. A delegate who wishes to make a declaration of vote must use the raise your hand function, and by now, honorable members are familiar with this icon. Once recognized, the delegate should indicate his and a name, party, and do the declaration of the vote. A delegate wishing to call for division must draw the attention of the chair to the fact, in terms of the rules, a call for division must be supported by at least 4 delegates. Delegates who might not be in the waiting room will be given for the first time 2 minutes to join the House and 15 seconds in respect of the votes thereafter. No delegate shall be allowed access to the House whilst voting is in progress. Once the question is put, delegates who wish to cast their votes must do so by using the raise your hand function. Delegates must keep their hands raised until voting closes. Procedural staff shall tally the votes. The host shall lower all hands after every vote. If a delegate is disconnected whilst voting takes place, the vote of the delegate shall be ascertained and the records shall be amended accordingly. Honorable delegates, we now proceed to the first order. Consideration of the votes and scheduled second adjustment appropriation bill 2022-2023 financial year, B4-2023, National Assembly, SEC 77. I now put vote 5, Home Affairs. I've been informed that the following parties would like to make the declaration of vote in terms of Rule 78. So we'll start with the FF. Honorable De Bruin.
Honorable Chair, Honorable De Bruin is just struggling with connectivity. We can go to the next member.
Now we'll proceed. Honorable Dlamini, EFF.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Economic Freedom Fighters rejects the proposed budget vote for the Department of Home Affairs. We reject the budget of the department which declared a war on queues in 2018. Yet today, 5 years later, our people are still queuing at the crack of dawn outside offices in the hope of being assisted. Home Affairs offices still experience unstable systems and network disruptions. And when their offices are operational, the services received from the staff is often appalling, with constant, uncoordinated engagements with the public, which leads to even more confusion. We reject the budget of a department which still offers limited operating times of services, with uneven distribution of offices in townships and rural areas. The Department of Home Affairs still faces challenges of corruption, fraud, and high incidence of fraudulent marriages and identity documents, with asylum seekers still experiencing numerous challenges with its online system. There exists a lack of leadership at Home Affairs, with Mr. Mtwaledi has no capacity to lead a department such as Home Affairs. As the EFF, we therefore reject the budget of a department which deprives our people of access to basic services. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dlamini. We'll now proceed to Honorable Badenhorst, the DA.
Honorable Chair.
Badenhorst.
Honorable Chair, thank you for the opportunity. Honorable members, if ever the saying robbing Peter to pay Paul had to apply to something like the second adjustments appropriation bill, I urge you to look no further. In this case, Peter is an analogy for the poor in South Africa who are being robbed to pay for all the years of financial mismanagement by an incompetent ANC government, who would in this case obviously be Paul. Let's see the wood from the trees here. 300 million rand is now proposed to bolster represented political parties' funding due to unspent social relief of distress grant funding within the social development vote. Let me say this again in plain and simple terms, that it is very clear what is happening here. Even with so few parties actually following the noble guidelines of the Political Party Funding Act, in the interest of improving transparency and accountability, and I'm excluding the EFF here, this very act and its principles of divulging donors must have scared many of the ANC financiers back to the recesses of obscurity where they operate in. So what does the ANC do when they can't get funding from donors? It's easy. Just make it more difficult for the poorest of poor to qualify for social relief of distress grants. That very essential 350 Rand a month that has to feed many hungry monthly in the poorest of the poor areas in a distressed and nearly non-existent economy. Also brought to you, might I add, courtesy of decades of ANC looting and mismanagement. Once you've made some savings due to more stringent qualifying criteria, let's be exact here, 3.8 billion Rand, just to take some of that money, let's say make it about 300 million Rand, and add that to the already substantial pot that you have allocated to political parties previously. Fellow members, is this not typical of the ANC? Take money from the poor so you can continue duping the poor in voting for you with empty promises so you can stay in power longer to rob the poor more in the future. The Democratic Alliance does not support this bill, and I urge other parties to do the same, or suffer the consequences in 2024 when the voters decide for you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Badenhorst. We'll proceed to Honorable Malika, ANC. Honorable Malika.
Thank you, Chairperson. The African National Congress supports the appropriation for budget vote 5 of the Department of Home Affairs. The issuance of identity documents is a guarantee of the right to citizenship to our people and a sense of national pride. The department also plays a critical role in providing travel documents to both South Africans and foreign nationals. These travel documents assist in facilitating movement of people between our country and other countries of the world. This contributes to economic initiatives such as tourism and investment. We are aware of the many challenges that our people raised with us regarding services at Home Affairs offices. Our people are concerned about the long queues in the Home Affairs offices. They are concerned about the backlog of application of documents, as well as the network distribution that often happen in the offices. We are, however, encouraged in the acknowledge that these concerns are at the center of policy priorities of the Department of Home Affairs for this financial year. The department, as part of interventions, will be recruiting additional young people to assist in the modernization of the records of the Home Affairs dating many years ago. The department will also focus on ICT modernization to ensure the efficiency of services in its offices, as well as to deal with the challenges of network disruptions. We are also encouraged in the knowledge that the department has launched a program on war on queues. The war on queues include the various interventions I already outlined earlier. This includes the issue of ICT modernization and the rollout of the footprint of Home Affairs offices across the country. Chairperson, Home Affairs will embark on an ID campaign across the country through the mobile track unit as well as the visit school to assist learners with the application of identity documents. We are encouraged by these initiatives. We therefore urge our people, especially young people, to take advantage of these measures and ensure that they apply for identity documents. As the National Council of Provinces, we shall play our robust oversight role to ensure that the commitment made by the Department of Home Affairs as outlined in the budget are implemented. The ANC supports the appropriation for the budget vote of the Department of Home Affairs, and we appreciate the work that has been done by Minister Mtsoaledi. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Malika. We'll now return back to Honorable De Bruin from FF Plus.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Agbare voorsitter, verlede jaar het ons die beloftes van hierdie departement aangehoor oor die implementering van nuwe stelsels en geriewe om te verseker dat die werksaamhede van hierdie departement verbeter. 'n jaar later is die dienslewering van hierdie departement egter steeds van so 'n aard dat die rye en die wagtye vir dokumentasies net langer en langer geword het. It is therefore no wonder, Honorable Chair, that South Africans refer to this department as Hell Affairs rather than Home Affairs. Seeing that we have complaints from the public stating that they've waited more than 8 weeks for passports as a result of system failures, load shedding, and general incompetence. Honorable Chair, rather to reduce the 300 billion allocated for political parties, of which the ANC gets the most, almost about, or more than 160 million, and appropriate the funds to serve our people rather than our politicians. It is it's not the South African residents' responsibility to bail out the ANC, Honorable Chair. It's the ANC government's responsibility to serve our people. And therefore, the Freedom Front Plus will not be in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This vote, honorable members, is agreed to, and the objection of the EFF, FF Plus, IFP, and DA are noted. We'll now move on to the next vote, which is vote 8. I now put vote 8, National Treasury. I've been informed that the following parties would like to make declarations of vote in terms of Rule 78. Again, a reminder, maximum 3 minutes per declaration. Anybody wishing to make a declaration? None. Also, I see there's Honorable Okamp there. Let's start with Okamp and then Mletsan.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, since defaulting on its obligations in 2020, Land Bank has received various bailouts totaling 10 billion rand. This additional bailout of 5 billion rand that is now given to Land Bank in this adjustment appropriation therefore brings the total amount of bailouts to the Land Bank in the last 3 years to 15 billion rands. It will be futile to keep on providing bailouts to Land Bank without ensuring that there are proper structural reforms as well as a long-term succession plan being implemented at senior management level at Land Bank. One of the major problems with regards to Land Bank's performance were due to its loan asset portfolio being funded entirely through short-term debt that was raised. The Land Bank business model must change in order to improve its ability of long-term capital raising instead of all the short-term loans that they obtained in recent years. A further problem that will not be fixed by another bailout is that there is absolutely no continuity with regards to the approach of the CEOs that were appointed at the Land Bank. To give you an example, in 2015, the CEO that was appointed came from the Development Bank of South Africa. The next CEO came from the Johannesburg market, followed by a transactional banker from Standard Bank, who then became the CEO. All of them having different backgrounds and therefore different approaches in trying to solve the issues at the Land Bank. As members of Parliament, we must ask ourselves why the last two CEOs of Land Bank did not even complete their terms. Due to the poor confidence in the Land Bank, farmers with the ability to pay back their loans prefer to rather obtain loans from other commercial banks, leaving Land Bank with a large number of their remaining clients that are not able to repay their loans. Further to this, Honourable Chairperson, expropriation of land without compensation is going to place the final nail in the bank's coffin. Chairperson, instead of continuous bailouts, Land Bank must rather be supported and steered in the right direction in order to restore market confidence in the bank. It needs to display to the market and to investors that it is serious about implementing the required structural reforms, some of which I've just mentioned. The Democratic Alliance does not support this adjustment appropriation to National Treasury. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Okam. We'll move to Honorable Mletsane from the EFF.
Thank you, Chairperson. The economic freedom fighters reject the budget vote for National Treasury. We reject the budget of a department responsible for managing South Africa's national government finances and to ensure transparency, accountability, and sound financial controls in the management of public finances, yet has done very little to combat corruption. We reject the budget of a department which has not introduced any believable policies to reduce poverty and vulnerability among the country's most marginalized, and has failed to present any plans to collect maximum revenue from now booming online trading platforms. The National Treasury has demonstrated that they are not interested in building robust capacity. Instead, loss of revenue has had tremendous consequences for the economy, including negative impact on economic growth. We reject this budget. Thank you, Chairperson.
Now, thank you very much, Honorable Mletsane. Now I see that there's an indication that Honorable Njadu will speak on behalf of the ANC, but I also see that Honorable Karim's hand is up.
I'll step down, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'll step down in favor of Mr. Njadu. I've been battling to connect. Thank you. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Njadu.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, on behalf of the African National Congress, National Treasury is vote 8. National Treasury is an essential department of the state because of its role in shaping the macroeconomic framework and fiscal policy outlook. This is critical because it speaks to the state's resource base to advance to constitutional obligations and support the program of government in realizing the Bill of Rights. The Treasury responds to a critical function of funding government priorities and most important policies of the ANC as a governing party. The second adjustment for vote 8 of the National Treasury is to fund the Land and Agricultural Department Bank of South African purchase of equity. The Land Bank has a majority role in the country's socio-economic transformation and economic development. Agriculture is a critical sector which is a major driver of job creation. The financial sustainability of the Land Bank is critical as a support economic development and growth. The 5 billion allocation to the Land Bank will contribute to support the Land Bank to meet all its financial commitments, sustainability, and to sustain the support provides for the various farming activities. What becomes critical is that the allocation made should be accounted for, and clear conditions should be set and monitored to realize the impact envisaged by the allocation. Our fiscus has a bailout several state entities which are confronted by various challenges which can be subjected and objected. We must recognize that the bailouts have a negative impact on other key service delivery and development projects such as the provision of basic services. We must play our oversight role as this House to monitor the progress of this significant allocation to the Land Bank. We support the adjustment and its contribute to the economic reconstruction and recovery plan, which is critical for economic development and job creation. We support the second adjustment appropriation bill. Thank you very much, Chair.
Now, thank you very much, Honorable Njadu. We will now proceed. The voting is therefore agreed to. The objection of the EFF, FF Plus, and DA are noted. We will proceed then to the next vote, vote 10, public enterprises. I put vote 10, and I've been informed that the following parties would like to make a declaration of vote in terms of Rule 78. The first one is FF Plus. Honorable De Bruin.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Agbare Voorsitter, Honorable Chair. According to this report, the purpose of this appropriation was to drive investment, productivity, and transformation in the department's portfolio of state-owned companies and to unlock growth, drive industrialization, job creation, and skills development. Nou, Agbare Voorsitter, dit klink baie indrukwekkend op papier, maar ons almal weet die doel hiervan was en is niks anders as om weer eens gefaalde en wanfunksionerende staatsentiteite 'n reddingsboei te gee. Entiteite soos SAL wat weer eens 1 biljoen ontvang het, saam met ander entiteite soos die Poskantoor, Transnet ensovoorts, het die regering van soveel geld geroof wat eerder op die welstand van ons mense bestee kon word as om dooie koeie weer nuwe lewe te probeer inblaas. Daarom, Agbare Voorsitter, geen begroting of die aanpassing daarvan in hierdie departement sal ooit na behore spandeer word in staatsbelang solank die ANC in beheer is nie, en daarom sal die Vryheidsfront Plus dit nie ondersteun nie. Dankie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bray. We'll move to Honorable MJ Makwala, EFF. Honorable Makwala.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Economic Freedom Fighters reject the budget vote on the public enterprise. We reject the budget of the department which is responsible for the deliberation failures of ESCOM experience over a decade. For the crisis facing ESCOM, it is part of this department's broader plan to cripple the company to such an extent that is entirely reliant on private power producers. We reject the budget of the department responsible for our people living in darkness. Even though time and time again, We were promised that the electricity crisis will be resolved and that load shedding will be a thing of the past. ESCOM, one of our most prized SOEs, has become the joke of the country, with blackouts every other day. And under the leadership of this department, our country state-owned entities have gone down the drain and have been used for cadre deployment and job for pairs. The department is also responsible for the poor performance of the South African Police Post Office in delivering grant payments. Small and medium businesses are shutting down their doors due to the rolling blackouts. Our people are failing prey to criminals, and the living and the lives of ordinary citizens are interrupted on a daily basis. Chairperson, as the economic freedom fighters, we condemn the incompetence of the corruption of the ANC, and we reject this budget.
Thank you very much, Honorable Magwala. We'll move on then to Honorable Nana from the DA. Honorable Nana.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. If, honorable members, if we were to conduct a survey of who amongst all state entities always approaches National Treasury, either for a bailout or a government guarantee, I have no doubt in my mind South African Airways might top that list. SAA has once again asked for the taxpayer to fork out 1 billion to keep itself afloat. The question to be answered, for how long shall we allow the ANC cadres deployed at the SOEs literally running down SOEs such as SAA to the ground? Giving money to SAA is throwing money you don't have in a black bottomless pit with no prospects of any returns in investment. One wonders how much of this money will make its way to the connected ANC benefactors and eventually end up at Luthuli House in order for you to pay your salaries, staff salaries, sorry. SAA has failed our economy in a massive, SAA has failed our country at a massive cost to the taxpayer. I have said it before and I will say it again. Is it not time as the country to exit what is not our core competency? Let business do what they know best. Whilst SAA is limping from one bailout to the other, privately owned airlines such as Airlink, Surf Air, and Sam Air are in the air, which is a further testament that SAA should be privatized if we are to see better results. The Democratic Alliance cannot support this adjustment appropriation bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll then proceed to Honorable Mkiva from the ANC. Honorable Zaki Mkiva.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to the members. Chairperson, it goes without saying that the ANC supports this particular bill on public enterprises. We are responsible for governance in this country. And number two, we are a leader of society. We have to make this country work against all odds because we have a duty and responsibility which is bestowed upon us by the masses of our country, and that their expectation is no less than us doing what they expect. Therefore, Chairperson, the ANC supports the second adjustment appropriation bill for following two reasons. Firstly, it is not an exaggeration to say that ESCOM is confronted with a liquidity shortage, which is gradually becoming a liquidity crisis. And we are making that cogent observation, and we are coming up with cogent proposals to that particular issue as a solution. This liquidity shortage has become so severe for ESCOM due to the exploitative character of bondholders that have been able systematically to appropriate directly as part of the process of settling debt obligation, a portion of ESCOM's revenue at higher than normal profit. Liquidity shortage is slowly paralyzing ESCOM's financial efforts to conduct reliability maintenance to reduce unplanned breakdowns and extend the lifeline of the existing power plants. Worse, liquidity shortage has forced ESCOM to cut back on expanding the transmission network to bring more energy sources onto the grid, while the ANC-led government has attempted to rescue Eskom and ameliorate the utilities liquidity shortage through debt guarantees, the intervention has been limited as Eskom constantly seeks emergency borrowing to address its struggles to supply uninterrupted electricity. As a result of this liquidity shortage, the ANC-led government has introduced new methods capable of ensuring that bondholders and other creditors to Eskom receive their money back without crippling reliability maintenance and the expansion of the transmission network. An extraordinary method is the National Treasury's total debt relief arrangement for Eskom of 254 billion, which is intended to allow the utility a space to prioritize capital expenditure in transmission and distribution networks, as well as maintenance of the existing power station to improve availability of electricity. This proves that the ANC-led government is willing to make gigantic decisions in resolving the energy crisis and putting an end to load shedding as the most immediate and pressing challenges. Secondly, liquidity and solvency crises have proved fatal for the South African airways. The proximate cause of this crisis is the state capture, as SSA market share collapsed due to mismanagement and corruption in the national carrier during the state capture. The ANC-led government found it increasingly difficult to use public funds to support SAA. Thus, as a strategic equity partnership was sought, as the collapse of SAA would be a blunder of colossal proportion. However, liquidity and solvency crisis in SAA have not disappeared completely, as the national carrier still needs to settle the business rescue plan obligation. Considering this, the National Treasury has appropriated 1 billion for SAA to settle the business rescue plans obligation. It is therefore, Chairperson, clear to us that we cannot afford to privatize either Eskom and SAA, because these are national assets that must be maintained to serve and service our people at all material times. Failure to do so, if we privatize, it would mean that the majority of our people are cut out of electricity supply, and yet to us, electricity supply is one of the basic rights that must be given to our people. Therefore, the ANC says this bill must go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mkiva. Honorable members, I have been further informed that the DA wishes to call for a division. Can you confirm that this is the case? And also indicate support by 4 delegates. Honorable
Chairperson, Oukamp, I support.
Honorable Labuschagne, support.
Okay.
Lawn support.
Rider support.
Lawn support. No, thank you very much. A division has been called. I will now allow for a 15-minute second window. Delegates who are outside the virtual platform to join in the house. And those 15 seconds start now. Yeah, thank you very much. We will then proceed to voting on the question. And the question is that the vote be agreed to. Can we have those who are voting in favor, please raising their hands?
Honorable Chair.
And please keep those hands up.
Honorable Chair.
Yes,
Honorable Chair. Is there no opportunity for a declaration on the bill as such before we vote? Still coming.
No, honorable member. Please remember that
vote is one vote
this should
only.
have been done earlier on. So we're now past the declarations as we speak.
Honorable Chair, with all due respect,
Declarations that were done, and the person who spoke on behalf of the DA was Honorable Nana.
no, he spoke on a specific vote. We did the votes.
We voting on a specific.
And then
Honorable
we did.
Member, what are you urging me to do?
I'm asking why didn't we do a vote, a declaration on the total bill? We did declarations on the votes. Now we're voting on the whole bill. And normally there is a declaration on the bill.
Stadig.
Yeah,
Stadig, Kathy.
on vote 10, Honorable.
Nog Dari.
And Honorable, vote 10 is public enterprises.
Chairperson, I'm voting in favor.
Okay.
Yes. No, thank you very much. So, unfortunately, Honorable Galopskakhin, we can't go back. We're now voting. Those in favor, please leave your hands up.
Jadu, vote in favor.
Yes, noted.
Honorable voting in favor.
Please, that's noted, I'm sure. I'm sure the table is busy counting the votes. And as they do so, can I ask them to please lower their hands? Please lower those hands. I now ask those who want to vote against to please raise their hands. Against?
Mrs. Klope.
I'm sure it should be noted.
Honorable Makwala against EFF.
No, okay. I'm sure that should be noted as well.
Honorable Dlamini, I vote against EFF.
Kenny Musab, I vote against.
Noted.
Honorable He, I vote against.
Noted. The count, I'm sure, is now complete. It's completed. So please lower your hands as we move to the next vote. I now ask those who are abstaining to please raise their hands. Those who are abstaining, please raise your hands. None on the screen. Thank you very much. Voting is now closed. The table will now submit the results. Thank you very much. The results are now in favor 32, against 24, abstentions 0. In favor 32, against 24, no abstaining. The vote is therefore agreed to. Thank you very much. We will proceed to vote 11. So I put vote 11, Public Service and Administration. I've been informed that the following parties would like to make a declaration of vote in terms of Rule 78. Again, to remind the honorable members, 3 minutes per declaration. We'll start with Honorable Matebula from the EFF. Honorable Matebula.
Honorable Chair, it's Honorable Makwala. I will be standing in for Honorable Matebula.
Please proceed.
Chairperson, the economic freedom fighters reject the budget of the Public Enterprise and Administration. We reject the budget of a department whose aim is to promote ethical public services and to prevent and combat corruption, yet is notorious for doing exact opposite. We reject the budget of a department which has on several occasions been compromised as civil servants conduct business with state. The department has failed to monitor various government departments, as we still have many vacancies in key positions in various sectors, instability in key positions, and ineffective performance management in various sectors. We reject the budget of the department which has failed our people over 20 years of democracy, as our people are still faced with racial and spatial inequality in workplace in our country and in many public and private sectors. Most key positions are still male dominant, with women underrepresented. The department lacks overall model of public administration enforcement standard and ethic to address the skill deficiency and development mode to professionalize the public services. We reject the budget.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable M.K. Muima. Honorable Muima from the ANC.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Allow me on behalf of the African National Congress to make a declaration. Indeed, the Department of Public Service Administration is a critical department that continues to contribute to building a capable, developmental and ethical state that responds to our country's social and economic needs. The department, Honorable National Chair, is currently focusing on professionalizing the public service, which is an essential component of advancing Batufele principles. Therefore, the modernization of the state in the current epoch is of paramount as changing world, and the rapid increase of digitization bring about new opportunities and threats for our public administration. The ANC has resolved that the advancement of e-government, which will bring about enhanced capabilities to enhance the efficiencies and effectiveness of the state, must happen now. Therefore, National Chair, we are as a country confronted with high levels of maladministration, which to a larger degree threatens to erode the state's capability. For the Department of Public Service and Administration to strengthen compliance and legislation and ensuring that public officials are appointed to meet the requirements and functions within the legislative framework is an instrument that the department should ensure. Therefore, the low level of compliance and slow consequence management actions have the capacity to weaken the state. National Chair, through the department's work, positive development and continuous improvements are currently underway. Honorable National Chair, the second adjustment appropriation largely funded government services access and improvement, focusing on the Center for Public Service Innovation Operation. This is a critical program of the department to innovate ways to improve the functioning of the state continuously. Another adjustment is to strengthen the department's administration, which is the anchor of the department's work. Therefore, National Chairperson, The African National Congress called for this year to be a year of decisive action to advance the interests of the people and to take decisive measures and serve the interest of the people. The government should strengthen the administrative in order to ensure that indeed we strengthen the administrative systems and ensure that there is continuous capacity development within the public service and also create room for the succession planning and career development path within the public service. We therefore, as the African National Congress, support the second adjustment appropriation. Thank you, National Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Muima. So we'll proceed, and just I wish to indicate that I've been informed that the DA wishes to call for a division. Is this still the case? Is the division supported by the 4 delegates?
Oukamp supports.
Oukamp is.
Michalakis supports.
Michalis support, yeah.
Boshoff.
Boshoff supports.
Ryder is one needed still, Chair.
Ryder, yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Support. Visser support.
Smith
support.
No, it's more than enough. Yeah. Thank you very much. Now that division has been called, I will now allow for 15 seconds window for delegates who are outside the virtual platform to join the House. And the 15 seconds starts now. Thank you very much. We will then proceed to voting on the question. And the question is that the vote be agreed to. May I now call upon those who wish to vote in favor to please raise their hands. Those vote in favor.
Jadu, vote in favor.
Noted.
Chairperson Lekhanyan from Limpopo, vote in favor.
Lekhanyan's hand is also noted.
Chair from Limpopo, I'm voting in favor.
Thank you very much. Noted.
Chair, Honorable Ndo, Jerindo, vote in favor.
Jerindo, vote in favor. Noted. I'm sure the table has completed counting. I'll now ask Honorable Delegate to please lower their hands. The hands being lowered, we'll then move on to those who wish to vote against. Please raise your hands. Those voting against. I see Honorable Mshodi's hand is still up.
Yeah, she found a conscience.
The legacy has
It's
a legacy hand. Hey, I vote in favor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Mshodi. That correction has been made. The hands that are now up are those against. Can I ask the table to lower those hands so that to move to the next step? Can those who are voting to indicate that they are abstaining, please raise their hands. Those abstaining. It doesn't seem like there are any. Voting is now closed, and the table will submit the results. The results, honorable members, are as follows. 35 have voted in favor, 21 have voted against, and there are no abstentions. So it's 35 against 21. The vote is therefore agreed to. Thank you very much. We will now move to the next vote, which is vote 19. So I put vote 19, social development. I've been informed that the following parties would like to make the declaration of votes in terms of Rule 78. The three are EFF, Honorable S.L. Tuli, DA, Honorable D.C. Christians, and ANC, Honorable N. Dongeni. We'll start with the EFF. Honorable Lutuli.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the Economic Freedom Fighters rejects budget vote for social development. We reject a department which has failed to provide a social security system that uplifts our people out of poverty. This department has made no attempts at implementing a universal basic income grant, despite various calls for it. Instead, it celebrates 18 million South Africans receiving social grants, with another 11 million relying on 350 rand grant, which does very little to meet the needs of our people. Social factors such as healthcare, education, and transportation, which plays a vital role in the economic development of our people, is lacking in our townships and in our rural areas. The Economic Freedom Fighters rejects the proposed budget votes for social development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lutuli. The next honorable member to speak is Honorable Christians. Honorable Christian.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chair, I rise today to express my concern about the state of social welfare in our country. The recent report by National Treasury and the Financial and Fiscal Commission has highlighted the issue of unspent social relief of distress grant funds within the Department of Social Development, amounting to 3.8 billion rand, and the further 81 million rand from the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, administrative support. While the means testing process has endeavored to implement better disbursement of funds by trying to eliminate corruption and maladministration, it has also led to the progressive erosion in the number of people accessing the grant. This is happening in the midst of persistent unemployment and worsening socio-economic conditions, disproportionately affecting mostly the poor and vulnerable. This also indicates that National Treasury has failed to pay attention to the grant's administrative challenges, leading to a significant underspending, and such measures should not be taken at the expense of the most vulnerable and destitute beneficiaries. The Democratic Alliance is not supporting the adjustment, as we believe that the money should be given to the poor instead of bailing out state-owned entities. We are concerned about the lack of social service practitioners being employed, the lack of skills training programs, and the inability of government to ensure employment opportunities. The money could have been better spent within the department and made a huge difference in the lives of the destitute. Honorable Chairperson, it is clear that we need to give more to support our most vulnerable and disadvantaged citizens. The SRD grant has provided some relief, but it is not nearly enough. We must continue to explore options for a permanent solution and ensure that the funds allocated to these programs are used efficiently and effectively. We must also prioritize the needs of the poor and vulnerable over the interests of state-owned entities. I thank you.
And very much, Honorable Christian. And the last speaker is going to be Honorable Ndongeni from the ANC.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. The ANC support the Second Amendment Appropriation Bill as tabled in the National Council of Provinces, as it seeks to respond to the protection against vulnerability by creating an able environment for the provision of the comprehensive, integrated, and sustainable social development services. This addresses the socio-economic challenges that when widen inequality by advancing social protection for economically marginalized and impoverished South Africans. The ANC remain committed to improve people's livelihoods through poverty alleviation and building a caring and self-reliant generation. A rejection of the bill as presented is, in our view, disregard for the reality that ours is an equal society where millions rely on social services to support their livelihoods. Indeed, this social, sorry, Chair. The Mark, better than technology.
Look at your notes very well there.
Okay, the ANC remains committed. The ANC remains committed to improve people's livelihoods through poverty alleviation and building a caring and self-reliant generation. A rejection of the bill as presented is, in our view, a disregard for the reality that ours is an equal society where millions will rely on social services to support their livelihoods. Indeed, these social services, as delivered by the government, are affirmation for many that the South African government cares. The second adjustment has resulted in a decline of 3.7 billion due to the changes in reapplication process requirements for the social relief of distress grant from the South African social security agencies. This adjustment does not negatively impact the recipient of the social relief of distress. The social relief of the distress is a groundbreaking intervention which ensures that South Africans experience abject poverty and sleep with hungry stomach. The challenge that confronts the nation and economy in the rising cost of living, which impact the poorest in the main. We must place economic development and transformation in the center of self-liberations. The mandate of the Department of Social Development is to provide social protection services and lead government efforts to forge partnership through which vulnerable individuals, groups, and communities become capable and self-reliant participants in their development. Honorable Chair, I wish to categorically state that the position of the ANC on social transformation is the center of Department of official mandate. The bias towards this country working class, poor and otherwise marginalized people remain the cornerstone of the ANC revolutionary policy position. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ndongeni. Honorable members, I've been informed that the DA wishes to call for a division. Is this the case? And if it is this division supported by 4 delegates?
Ryder supports, Chair.
Ryder supports.
Oukamp supports.
Oukamp.
Michalakis.
Christians.
Wardner support.
Visser supports.
Labuschagne.
Visser support. Thank you very much. Now that's enough. A division has been called. I will now allow for a 15-second window to delegates who are outside the virtual platform to join in the House. Let's see what happens. Thank you very much. We'll now proceed to voting on the question. And the question is that the vote be agreed to. Any party wishing to make a declaration? None.
Chairperson, we are voting.
In that? Oh yes, declarations first. I just want to make sure that we don't have a problem later on. Not declaration, thank you very much.
Chairperson, is the voting stage now?
Sorry? There being not
Declaration has been done, Chairperson. We are voting now.
We shall proceed to voting. Those voting in favor, please indicate by raising your hands.
Chairperson, Lekhanyan from Limpopo, vote in favor.
Khanyana's vote noted.
Jadu, vote in favor.
Jadu's vote noted. Thank you very much. I'm sure the hands can now be lowered. As we prepare for the next voting, may at this point in time, may we allow for those who want to vote against to please raise their hands. Those voting against? I'm sure the count is completed. And this being the case, we'll ask the table to please lower those hands. And go to the last vote, last voting. May I ask those who are abstaining to please raise their hands. Those abstaining? None? We will therefore move on and indicate that voting is now closed. The table will now submit the results. The results are as follows. 32 voted in favor, 19 voted against, and there's no abstention, no one abstaining, 0 abstaining. So it's 32 for, 19 against. The vote is therefore agreed to. Thank you very much. We'll move on then to vote 30. I put vote 30, communication and digital technologies. I've been informed that the following parties would like to make international votes in terms of Rule 78. And those are Honorable Makwara from the EFF, Honorable Nana from DA, and Honorable Mamu Robela from the ANC. We'll start with Honorable Makwala, the EFF.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the EFF reject the budget vote on communication and digital technologies. The department is mandated to play a key role of fostering economic and social participation of our people through digital transformation. Yet it has had an uninformed approach in the way in which it communicates government decision plans and how it responds during the times of crisis. The department has on several occasions been found wanting during the key moments when solid communication was required from the government. The end result being poor handling of critical intervention. The department has also been found wanting in making our people aware of cybersecurity threats and in dealing with such threats. And the country is left wondering as to what exactly the government is doing to deal with the key challenges such as load shedding, high unemployment, violent crimes. These all key communication messages with which the GCIS ought to communicate on behalf of the government to ensure that there is uniformity and standardized ways of communication. We reject this budget, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Magwala. We'll move on to Honorable Nana from the TA.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable members, it is said that once again, South African Post Office went to the National Treasury with cap in hand asking for yet another bailout of 2.4 billion. What makes me even more sad, the South African Post Office has quietly closed another 92 post offices across the country, with 50 of those closed by unpaid landlords. This has led to an inconvenience to thousands of South Africans who saw their only access point for their grants and other postal services being shut down with no alternative in place. If one's nearest post office is being shut down, taking a taxi to another post office could cost the recipients of the Social Relief of Distress Grant, commonly known as 350 grants, a substantial portion of the already meager grant. With South Africa's unemployment rate lingering at over 30%, South African Post Office staff were not spared. It is reported that South African Post Office wants to reduce staff salaries by up to 40% and cut jobs of about 6,000. One can only hope senior executives at the entity will begin by reducing their own fat salaries first and retrench some amongst themselves before hitting hard on poor workers. What is even more alarming, this bailout was not brought before the Select Committee. I am advised that it was never brought before the Portfolio Committee in the National Assembly as well. Members of Parliament are expected to approve a bailout, yet SAPO has not appeared before us to present a plan of how the money will be spent. We are essentially required to give SAPO a blank check so they can spend taxpayers' money as and how they see fit. South Africans, including staff at the post office, are made to suffer for the misdeeds and poor management of the South African Post Office by incompetent cadres deployed by Luthuli House. In good conscience, Honorable Chairperson, the Democratic Alliance cannot support this vote. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. We'll then proceed to Honorable Mamu Robela.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The African National Congress supports budget vote 30, communication and digital technologies. Our support for this budget vote is premised on the fact that the allocation made directly speak to the department's service delivery imperatives, particularly the upliftment and digital inclusion of underdeveloped areas across our country, Chairperson. To this effect, the department is facilitating the rollout of 3,000 community Wi-Fi hotspots across 16 districts and connecting 50,000 households on fiber to the home and Wi-Fi to the home technologies. In addition, Chair, through the SA Connect program, our government is going to roll out 14,024 community Wi-Fi hotspots in the 2023 and 2024 budget financial year across 16 districts. The other 19,515 community Wi-Fi hotspots will be rolled out in the next year, which is 2024-2025 financial year in 36 districts, I'm sorry, Chair. This will be towards reaching the target of 33,000 community Wi-Fi hotspots that will enable South Africans to have universal access to the internet by 2025. A total of 3.8 billion has been allocated for both phase 1 and phase 2 over the next 3 years, Chair. Chairperson, this gives impetus to the needs to speedily conclude the country's broadcasting digital migration from analog transmission. This will enable for the rollout of high-speed broadband of 4G and 5G networks, bring more channels to South Africans, create more employment for the content creation, as well as reduce the cost of data chain. Analog switch off can no longer be delayed through hot interdicts, rather it must be fast-tracked in the 4 remaining provinces, namely Gauteng, Western Cape, KZN, and Eastern Cape. We are encouraged as the ANC to see that 44% of set-top box installers are women. More women must be able to infiltrate this predominantly male-dominated space. As I conclude, Chair, I would like to express that the ANC welcomes the additional allocation of 2.4 billion towards the South African Post Office. While it does not solve all the challenges at the SAPO, but it will take the entity forward. SAPO is a critical service channel for our people, in particular those in rural and remote areas, and it is critical to repositioning of the Post Bank into a viable, inclusive, and transformative state bank. Once again, Chair, we support this budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Malbongwe.
I'm informed that the DA wishes to call for a division. Need to confirm if this is indeed so. Is the division supported by the 4 delegates?
Supported by Ryder, sir.
There's Ryder, yes.
Fisher support.
Who else is there?
Fisher support.
There's Fisher, yeah.
Ocamp support.
There's Ocamp, yeah.
Nana.
Smith.
Smith, okay. Thank you very much. Now that division has been called, I will now allow 15 seconds window delegates who are outside the virtual platform to join the House. Let's see how far we can go with that. 15 seconds, I'm sure that will be sufficient. We will move on. We now proceed to voting on the question, and the question is that the vote be agreed to. May I ask those who are voting in favor to please raise their hands.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Lekhanyan from Limpopo, vote in favor.
Lekhanyan's vote has been noted.
Jadu, vote in favor.
Jadu's vote should be noted. Thank you very much. I'm sure the counting is done. I'll ask the table to lower those hands so that we can move on to those who are voting against. Please raise your hands. Those voting against.
Honorable Makwala against chair. Please note.
Noted. Thank you very much. I'm sure the counting is done. And the table can lower all the hands so that we can move on to those who are abstaining. Those abstaining, please raise your hands. It doesn't seem like there's any person who's abstaining. The count is now completed. And voting is as follows. 32 in favor, 21 against, 0 abstentions. The vote is now agreed to. 32 in favor, 21 against, 0 abstaining. Vote agreed to. We'll now move on to the schedule. Honorable delegates are now the schedule. Are there any objections? Any objections at all? None. The schedule, honorable members, is agreed. That takes us to the second order. Honorable members, now the second order, consideration of the second adjustment appropriation bill. 2022-2023 financial year, before 2023 National Assembly Section 77, and report of Select Committee on Appropriations thereon, announcement tablings and committee reports, 24 March 2022, page 3. I call on Honorable DG Mahlangu, Chairperson of the Select Committee on Appropriations, to present the committee report. Honorable Mahlangu.
Malibongwe. Malibongwe, Chair.
Malibongwe. Thank you very much.
Malibongwe.
Honorable Mahlangu. We are calling on Honorable Mahlangu, the Select Committee Chair on Appropriations, to please speak on the report. I'm sure the table will assist us there to trace Honorable Mahlangu and make sure that she's connected.
She was earlier connected, Chair. We shall attempt to find out what the problem is.
My apologies, Chair, I'm back.
Please proceed.
Can I continue?
Please proceed.
Maybe I should close the video, Chairperson, with your permission.
Yes, if it gives you a problem, it's better to listen to you than have difficulties.
Honorable Chairperson.
Yeah, it seems like there's a problem with the connection there. Please speak close to the mic and speak as loudly as possible, but as slow as possible as well.
We are, honorable members, tabling this report. Okay, can I continue now? Can you hear me now, Chairperson?
I can hear you. Please proceed. Please go ahead. Kuba. I'll ask the table again to please assist.
Chairperson, may I suggest a 3-minute break while they're trying to sort out the technicalities?
Honorable Tango, your suggestion may indeed be a very good intervention. I'll ask honorable members to please not to switch off, but to
another reaffirmation that we need
a
to
very short break of about 2 minutes.
I think it's a load shedding.
Of course, Honorable Matama, it's load shedding. There.
Yes.
Let's go back to the house. We need to be back in the house. That's
There's no more.
Exactly right.
Exactly.
Chairperson, may I suggest that in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, and the economy,
I'm using the different gadget now, Chair.
Please proceed. Honorable members, please come back.
Thank
Please
you.
give us your hearing and your attention.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Proceed.
Honorable Chairperson, the committee adopted the report while the DA, the Freedom Front Plus, rejected the report, and the EFF reserved their position on the report. We are tabling this report, Honorable Chairperson, in a year of decisive action to advance people's interests. We believe that we should work together to ensure that we help our people find ways to cope with the challenges they face, including the high cost of living caused by globally high energy prices, climate change disasters, and load shedding, amongst others. This is no time for political point scoring. Honorable Chairperson and members, Section 213, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Republic provides that money may be withdrawn from the National Revenue Fund only in times of appropriation by an act of parliament. The Minister of Finance tabled the second adjustment appropriation bill on the 22nd of February, 2022, together with other bills to cater for spending pressures in certain government entities. Section 12, subsection 15A of the Money Bills and Related Matters Act number 9 of 2009 provides that after National Assembly passed the adjustment appropriation bill, the bill must be referred to the National Council of Provinces and referred to the Select Committee on Appropriations for concurrence. The National Assembly passed and transmitted this bill to the NCOP on the 23rd of March, 2023. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the to facilitate public participation and involvement, and in compliance with Section 72 of the Constitution, an advert was published on the website of Parliament and social media accounts inviting the general public and all interested stakeholders to make written submissions and comments on the bill. In addition to the National Treasury briefing the committee on the contents of the bill, the committee was also briefed by the FFC PBO on the 15th of March 2023. During a public hearing held jointly with the Standing Committee on the Appropriations on the 14th of March 2023, the Congress of South African Trade Unions made an oral submission. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, during these public hearings, the committee observed some key issues and made the following recommendations, including the submissions and briefings. The Department of Public Enterprises and the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, together with the National Treasury, should ensure that the 23 billion rands allocated in the bill is utilized for the intended purpose, and that a proper internal control environment is created to ensure that these funds are utilized effectively to enhance the implementation of turnaround strategy of ailing entities once approved and gazetted. Further, shareholder departments should ensure that the conditions prescribed for these bailouts are fully complied with, and that clear penalties or steps for consequence management are explicitly outlined as part of the conditions, so that clear and appropriate actions is taken for non-compliance. Honorable members, the committee is of the view that given the level of fiscal risk posed by some of the state-owned entities in the already constrained government budget, and the fact that each bailout increases debt service cost to the detriment of social service delivery programs, government should take decisive action to reinvent, restructure, remodel, or even terminate some of the entities, bearing in mind the sectoral nature, role, and functions these entities play in the larger economy. Business models and entities should be positioned to adapt to the ever-changing patterns of technology and innovations to keep up with the demands. Honorable Chairperson, the committee explores the Department of Public Service and Administration and the National Treasury to expedite the work to devise a single remuneration framework for the public sector. A progress report should be presented in the next budget cycle, and Parliament will continue to monitor this progress because we follow the money. Whilst the committee welcomes the improved means test for better disbursement of the social relief distress grant, to eliminate corruption and maladministration, the committee is of the view that the Department of Social Department, the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, and the National Treasury should ensure that such measures are not taken at the expense of the most vulnerable and needy beneficiaries. Furthermore, Honorable Chairperson, the committee believes that the discussions around the basic income grant should continue amongst all the relevant stakeholders to find a permanent solution to the growing unemployment and poverty. National Treasury and the Department of Public Enterprise should expedite the process of reviewing the South African Airways Strategic Equity Partner Agreement to prevent future fiscal obligations. The shareholder department should ensure that the conditions prescribed For the 1 billion additions, underline that, Parliament will continue to monitor the progress. Honorable Chairperson and members, the National Treasury should ensure that the appointed independent task team fast-tracks the assessment of ESCOM's operations, maintenance, and performance to determine the conditions for its debt relief. The committee calls on the Department of Public Enterprise, National Treasury, and ESCOM to ensure that all measures announced by the executive to address the ongoing energy crisis are implemented with speed and given the negative impact of load shedding in the economy and service delivery, and that this does not negatively impact on local government's ability to raise revenues through electricity tariffs. Honorable members and the chairperson, the Parliamentary Budget Office should expedite its research project on all state-owned entities, the SOEs, concerning contingent liabilities, funding needs, and whether the Public Finance Management Act, the PFMA, requirements are still realistic within the current framework. Whilst the committee welcome and appreciate the submission made by the Congress of South African Trade Unions during the public hearing on the bill, it wishes to encourage all other civil society organizations to continue participating in parliamentary public hearings to ensure that their meaningful inputs are placed before the committee. Honorable Chairperson, the committee reiterates its previous recommendation that the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies and SAPO must address all challenges facing the entity and ensure that a clear plan is developed and implemented to address the issue of the workers, the issue of statutory payment, medical aid scheme, and pension fund are addressed. A progress report should be submitted to Parliament within 60 days after the adoption of this report by this House. In conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, please allow me to thank the members of the committee for availing themselves, for being committed in making sure that we are doing the work that we are supposed to do. The stakeholders that have been participated, the committee support staff, because without them, we wouldn't be able to achieve what we have achieved. Without all these role players, Chairperson recommends to this August House to vote amendments. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Malibongwe, Honorable Chairperson, well done as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we proceed, honorable members, I shall allow political parties an opportunity to make their declaration of votes in terms of Rule 78. That is, if they so wish, to remind honorable members, 3 minutes maximum per declaration. Thank you very much. Any declaration?
Chairperson, on a point of order.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify, Chair? We're dealing with a report now, not yet with a bill. Should it not just be provinces that are called upon to declare at this stage? Unless I'm confused, Chair.
Yes. The question that you are putting in front of the House is the acceptance of this report. Now, I'm not sure, Honorable Rider, what point that are you raising?
Chairperson, I'm rising on the point that, and I'm not surprised that there's some confusion, because the report and the bill have both been lumped together in one order on the order paper. I think it would have been more appropriate to have the report first, then to have the schedule, and then to vote on the bill. But the issue, Chair, is that provinces should have an opportunity to vote and declare on the bill, on the report, and then we should move on to a separate declaration process and ultimately vote, which would be individual votes on the bill itself.
I somewhat, sympathize with what the point that we are raising, Honorable Red. But the fact of the matter is that we are being called upon to agree to the bill. This is the point that I'm coming to, and therefore, if there are not declarations, we'll move on.
Chairperson,
Yes,
are you now saying that we are now going, that the declaration that you are calling for is on the bill itself?
Yeah, they're on the bill itself. I don't want you, when you're now voting, to raise the point that you raised earlier on. If you want to make a declaration, please do so now.
The DA will do a declaration, Honorable Ryder will do the declaration.
Yes, Honorable Ryder.
Chairperson, honourable members, if you cut through the smoke and mirrors, then this bill is applying money to 3 different areas. Firstly, it's going to pay some salaries for some government workers. Secondly, it's going to bail out SIA, the Land Bank, and the Post Office. And thirdly, it's going to give 300 million rand to political parties. Members of this House clapped for Minister Tito Mboweni when he said that we need to take steps to reduce the public wage bill. Like trained seals clapping in the hope that your handler tosses you a sardine. What has changed now, honourable members, that you now clap for a new finance minister who has broken that promise? Note that this is not even for the compensation that's currently making headlines now. That money will still need to be found. Chair, the Land Bank, SIA, and the Post Office are SOEs in serious trouble. While SIA is reportedly operating profitably now under their new structure, the takeover deal remains shrouded in secrecy, not leaving South Africans feeling comfortable. The Land Bank and the Post Office, on the other hand, are not demonstrating improvements or any future prospects of success or even a plan. Chair, it's noted that Mr. Paul Mashatile did a terrible job as the Treasurer General of the ANC, with salaries paid late, PAYE and statutory deductions not paid across, and a general inability to balance the books. It's no wonder that the ANC had to find somewhere else to move. But does the sudden, poorly timed movement of 300 million rand to the political party fund even meet the legislative criteria for an adjustment appropriation? Even if it does, at a time when South Africans are suffering, this adjustment is distasteful in the extreme. Which brings us to where the funds are coming from, Chairperson. While some of the funding for these allocations is coming from tax received above expectations, 3.7 billion rand is being taken away from the money that we initially budgeted for the SRD grant. Those 350 rand grants that we were desperately told was needed for our people to survive. Yes, members, we are taking money away from people living in poverty and giving it to millionaire managers who work for government. We're giving it to SOEs that were plundered and mismanaged under state capture, and we're giving it to political parties. Are you members prepared to go back to your constituencies and tell them this? If not, it's best that you vote against this bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other party wishing to make a declaration?
The Freedom Front Plus, Chair.
Please proceed.
Dankie, agbare voorsitter. Aanpasbegroting se standaardpraktyk. Dit is egter 'n jammerte dat dit as uitkoms gesien word wanneer staatsentiteite jaar na jaar geplunder en in die afgrond bestuur word deur persone wat 'n politieke mandaat najaag sonder om beste besigheidspraktyke in ag te neem. Die Landbank byvoorbeeld het sedert 2020 tot November 2022 reeds 10 miljard rand in reddingsboeie ontvang en nou met hierdie ambasbegroting nog 5 miljard. 15 miljard in 3 jaar, voorsitter. Verskonings wat gegee word te swak leierskap, politieke inmenging en uitdagings by die raad. En die belastingbetaler moet maar net opdok. How is it possible, Chair, for any company to cut your paying client base in half, focusing on handouts, knowing that new beneficiaries doesn't necessarily have the required securities if they default on their payments and expect still to be profitable? And this in the name of transformation. The Land Bank's downgrading even affects the loan status and credibility of the Development Bank of South Africa, since both are SOEs. This has a negative effect on infrastructure development investment in South Africa. Gedurende ons komiteevergadering het ek navraag gedoen of dit nie wys sou wees om die Landbank se besigheidsplan te hersien nie, aangesien dit duidelik nie winsgewend is nie en glad nie 'n volhoubare oplossing is om subjektief op 'n volgehoue regeringsondersteuning staat te maak om kop bo water te hou nie. Ek was gekruisig, voorsitter. Ondersteuning van opkomende boere en transformasie was voor my kop gegooi met die fokus op sogenaamde voedselsekerheid. The public service wage bill is an issue that needs urgent reevaluation. We have requested this on numerous occasions. The challenge, Chair, is that the salary increases can't necessarily be budgeted for, since trade unions doesn't always keep to long-term wage agreements and striking season is a norm. It seems as if trade unions have become a lucrative business, getting 1% of someone's salary every month. 223 trade unions represent about 3 million workers in South Africa. The question, Chair, is how much of this 14.6 billion rand of this adjustment budget was allocated towards national departments to assist the carrying through costs of associated with the 2022-2023 public wage service increase will end up in the union's pockets? Just an interesting thought. Ons sien uit daarna om volledige verslag rakende die finansiële stand van sake rondom die sowat 700 staatsentiteite onder oë te kry, voorsitter, aangesien die moontlikheid bestaan dat van hierdie entiteite in erge finansiële verknorsing is. In closing, Chair, met 'n regering wat privatisering in staatsentiteite en die verkoop daarvan tot op hede teengestaan het, kan 'n mens dan skielik vra aangesien 'n aankondiging deur die minister van Finansies gemaak is oor die moontlike sluiting en privatisering van staatsentiteite. Wat gaan werklik daaraan? Wat is die werklike stand van sake? Suid-Afrika kan nie hierdie huidige finansiële las bekostig nie, voorsitter. Ons kan nie hierdie begroting bekostig nie. Dankie.
Thank you very much. Any other party?
EFF.
Mletsana, yes, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. The Economic Freedom Fighters reject the second adjustment appropriation bill. The second adjustment appropriation bill proposes additional funding to the South African Airways, the South African Post Office, the Land and Agricultural Development Bank, known as the Land Bank, and provision of public service wage increases. Ordinarily, we will welcome additional funding to state-owned entities. However, the ANC-led government has demonstrated that it has no political will or appreciation for the strategic role of state-owned entities. We know this to be true as they eagerly sold off South African Airways, the South African Post Office assets, its land and buildings at a fraction of their price. We, however, welcome the additional allocations made for political party funding and the public service wage increase. We reject this bill as it does nothing further to empower the lives of our people. And we reject majority of the neoliberal nonsense tabled by the National Treasury here in Parliament. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Any other political party wishing to make a declaration? None?
Chairperson.
Yes, Mkiva.
It's because you said any other party. I rise to represent not any other party, but to represent the African National Congress, the governing party of the Republic.
Party.
Can you please stand
Please
aside?
proceed.
Chair, we need to set the record straight immediately. We did nothing wrong, not at all. We met the requirements of the Money Bills Act on processing money bills and the applicable parliamentary rules. We also have a representative of Parliament's Legal Services Unit and 2 excellent secretaries of the committee. None of them said we were doing anything wrong. And then there they are, right there, the DA, as well as the other parties, opposition parties. And they never once said we were processing the bill irregularly. Why did the DA participate at all if the process was irregular? This is a second adjustment bill for the year 2022-23 financial year, which deals with the spending pressures in certain government programs from last year. And it has been adopted after all other proposed legislation had been adopted during the adjustments. And so it could not have waited for the year 2023-2024 proposals to be adopted first. The DA is offering a very crude, very transparent red herring. It's not the process that's the issue. It's that they are against this appropriation. It's that they are against pro-poor appropriation. All these adjustments are like that. And I want to say, Chairperson, that the DA, together with the other party that is represented by Mr. Devet and the EFF here, these parties think that poverty and inequality is natural. We are pro-poor in our approach, and when we make these interventions, we're coming with an instrument of progression, which is going to help to take our people away from squalor and ensure that the resources of this country are actually spread across the citizens of our republic so that we better the lives of our people. So this adjustment is about the following in respect of the SOEs, for instance. The South African Post Office, which of course delivers to unserved and poor rural areas basic service. People must take into account that, and the EFF must not mislead the public in saying that we have sold some of these assets, nothing of sort. And I want to reject that with the label that it deserves. The land bank is there to assist the emerging farmers, particularly the African farmers in particular, but black in general. The social relief of distress grants has been a need necessitated by the conditions that we found ourselves in a post-COVID situation, as well as some of the pressures that we face our people that are subjected to. Wages for public servants. This is a matter that we cannot just ignore. We have to take into account and we have to do something about it. We cannot just reject the issues that are raised by unionists in the bargaining council. We have to take stock, but we have to compare and contrast in terms of if our monies allow or not. Political parties in the legislatures, we consider their contributions, and we don't just bulldoze when we say we support this adjustment. These appropriations that are part of the transformative agenda, and we cannot be apologetic as the ANC to that agenda. We stand for the transformation of the economy of this country, and we stand for the growth of our economy in order to meet those demands of that particular transformation. We know that the vast majority of our constituencies, the poor and the disadvantaged, not the DA's constituency, of course, support this appropriation, and therefore we stand by our people, and that's why our people also stand by us. For example, I just want to take some aspects from the report which has been outlined here by the Honorable Mahlangu. The post office must be held accountable for the decisions taken to withhold statutory and other payments deducted from employees' salaries and not paid over to the relevant authorities. B, given SAPO's weak track record with implementing its turnaround plans. The Minister of Communication and Digital Technologies should consider placing SAPO under administration before further funding is considered to implement the new strategy. At the least, an oversight committee should be established by the National Treasury and the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies. The future of SAPO must be aligned with the result of the market study and the policy objectives set out in the ICT white paper. And D, SAPO must begin selling all its non-core assets, including properties, at market rates. We are saying SAPO must remain intact, but the non-core assets, we can shelve them because they do not help us in the actual strategy of turning around that institution. Insofar as the Land Bank is concerned, we say the Land Bank must provide assurance of compliance with Section 38(1)(j) of the Public Finance Management Act. If such confirmation cannot be provided, the funds will be transferred on condition.
Just a minute. What's the point of order?
It's Nana, Chairperson.
Yeah, what I'm saying, Nana, we're right on the point of order, yes. Let's hear what the point of order is.
And I'm sorry for doing this too, Kwanin. Chairperson, can I check how much time is each speaker is allocated?
3 minutes of declaration.
3 minutes of declaration.
I'm still on 1 minute.
Do you have a watch in front of you, Chair?
Yes, certainly. I've got a stopwatch, not just an ordinary watch.
I'm doing the Chairperson, Kwanin. Do you have a watch?
Let's not have a debate, Nana. Kiva is about to finish.
But he has exceeded 3 minutes.
But I'm keeping an eye on time. Please proceed, Mkiva.
So I'm saying that we have placed instruments to ensure compliance and as well as a responsibility on the part of the World Bank as well as on the part of SAA. And that's why we then say that we support this adjustment, because without us doing that, we will be very irresponsible. We don't stand to collapse the finance system of our country so that it does not work. I think the opposition parties, they present a posture. They present a posture to collapse the finances of the country. No, don't behave. This is not Britain. Don't behave like British parliamentarians here. No, don't behave like hooligans. Please allow me to conclude properly. This is the parliament of the people.
Please allow the chairperson.
Can I conclude, Chairperson?
Honorable Chairperson, on a point of order.
Just to remind you again, the question in front of us is that the bill be agreed to. Now, I want all those people who are voting in favor to please raise their hands.
Chairperson, on a point of order.
The DI goes for division, yeah.
Those voting in favor?
Is voting now.
I vote in favor, Chair.
Sure. Noted.
Jadu, vote in favor.
Noted, Jadu. Yeah, I'm sure the counting is done. I'll ask the table to lower the hands. Having done so, we'll move over to those who are voting against. Please put your hands up, those who are voting against. I'm sure the table is counted. We will then move on to those who are abstaining. Please put your hands up. It doesn't seem like there's anybody voting to abstain. Sure, all the hands have been lowered. The voting is now closed, and the table will be submitting the results. We await the results. Thank you very much. Those who voted in favor are 31 in favor. Those against are 22 against, and no abstention. The bill is therefore agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. Thank you very much, honorable members. There being no other business, that concludes the business of the day. And I wish to take this opportunity to thank all permanent and special delegates for having availed themselves to this important virtual plenary. The House is adjourned.
Madibongwe. Madibongwe.